Level 1, $0. You are a data point. You're 20, 3 weeks behind on rent, sitting in a beige clinical trial waiting room because the flyer on the campus bulletin board paid $400 for 11 days and 3 blood draws. Phase 1, a cholesterol drug you can't pronounce. The consent form is 14 pages. You skim it, the way everyone skims it, when the alternative is not making rent. That's when Trevor Voss finds you. 25, junior rep for Meridian Pharmaceutical, standing in for the trial coordinator who canceled. He walks the row of folding chairs, shakes hands he won't remember, and stops at yours only because you ask a real question. What happens if there's a reaction they don't expect? He smiles the smile they teach in orientation and says, "We care about your wellness," and presses a card into your hand. Glossy, teal logo, a stock photo of a jogger on the back. Then he's gone, on to the next chair, the next handshake. Day 9, your resting heart rate spikes for 6 hours straight, and you feel it happening in real time, lying on a cot, with a blood pressure cuff still on your arm. You mention it to the coordinator. A nurse notes it as subject reported, non-specific. You dig through the trial's public registry that night on a library computer and find 2 other sites logging the same symptom, unflagged, buried in adverse event footnotes nobody outside the industry reads. You drop out, forfeit the last 2 payments, and start building something in a dorm room that night. A plain, open tool that lets trial participants log symptoms in real time and cross-reference them against public registries. That tool would one day become one of the most valuable healthcare technology companies in the world. Between here and there, the healthcare system spends 2 decades learning your name. Trevor Voss spends those same 2 decades wishing he'd checked which chair he was standing next to. Level 2, $50,000. You are a liability. The tracker gets 300 users in a month, all of them people who've sat in a chair like yours. You take a $17 an hour hospital records job to keep the lights on while you build. Your health insurance through the job has a $6,200 deductible. You hit an ER for chest pain that turns out to be stress, and the bill, after insurance, is $1,140 for a visit that lasted 90 minutes. Nobody explains what out-of-network anesthesiologist means until the invoice already says it. A state health department sends a warning letter. Your tool, in aggregating and displaying adverse event data, may constitute unauthorized dissemination of medical claims. You're not a doctor. You never claimed to be one. The letter costs you a $1,800 retainer just to get a lawyer to write back. You rewrite the copy, strip anything that sounds like advice, and keep going. The tool crosses 4,000 users, people trading real numbers about real side effects, the trial sponsors buried in appendix tables. An FDA compliance officer calls, not to shut you down exactly, just to understand your data sharing architecture. You spend a week's savings, $900, flying to a meeting 3 states away because a phone call wasn't considered sufficient. You walk into the federal building and realize the same government that let your trial bury your own symptom now wants to know how you're tracking it. Level 3, $750,000. You are an entity. A small health tech fund invests $220,000. Incorporating costs $750. A HIPAA compliance audit runs $14,000 a year before you've signed a single hospital contract, and a data liability insurance policy, mandatory before any clinic will touch your platform, costs $9,600 annually regardless of whether you've ever mishandled a record. The government requires you to insure against a harm you haven't caused before it lets you try to prevent one. Your salary settles at $91,000. For the first time, your annual tax bill exceeds every dollar your family's insurance ever paid out during your childhood asthma treatments, combined. Nobody marks the crossing. An accountant finds $11,000 in deductions the trial payment tax forms never mentioned. Equipment depreciation, a home office allocation, a health savings account structure you'd never heard of. All of it legal. None of it explained to a version of you filling out a 1099 for trial stipends. You apply for an SBA loan to hire your first engineers. 54 days of paperwork, 3 years of returns you don't have, a rejection for insufficient clinical validation, a $1,400 consultant rewrite. Approved at 8.3%. Meridian's device division spinoff gets the same loan category at 4.2% the same quarter. Not a different program, a different relationship with the underwriters who define risk. Then a CMS audit lands, routine, on a company your size that's never billed Medicare $1. 4 months of document production. They find nothing. Cost of proving it, $7,100, unreimbursed. That same week, Trevor Voss, now a mid-level Meridian compliance liaison, is quoted in a trade publication about empowering patient-centered innovation. You look at the audit invoice, then at the softened wellness card still taped inside your desk drawer. Level 4, $5 million. You are a covered entity. A Series A pushes your valuation past $5 million. It doesn't feel like wealth. It feels like owing $215,000 in estimated taxes, more than every trial stipend you ever earned combined. Your platform now needs a reimbursement code to get paid by insurers at all. Getting one issued takes 11 months, and a consultant who specializes in nothing else, at $180,000 for the engagement. The code, once granted, is the difference between a hospital paying you and a hospital ignoring you entirely. You attend your first pharma industry gala, $2,000 a plate, in a ballroom where half the tables are funded by companies whose trials you once sat in. A health subcommittee staffer shakes your hand, says fascinating work, and is gone before your second sentence. 3 weeks later, her office calls about a pilot data sharing program. The call doesn't happen without the gala. You hire a healthcare lobbyist for $13,000 a month, whose entire job is making sure your platform is cited when data privacy rules get drafted, not regulated by them after the fact. At 0, you couldn't get a nurse to flag your own symptom. At $5 million, you pay $156,000 a year just to be consulted. Then you learn Trevor Voss now lobbies for the pharmaceutical industry's largest trade association, representing the very sponsors whose trials first taught you what an unflagged side effect looks like. Your lobbyist mentions it over coffee, casual as a scheduling note. You take the old wellness card out of the drawer and move it to your desk instead. It's no longer something you keep by accident. Level 5, $60 million. You are a stakeholder. An acquisition and a public offering push your net worth to $60 million. You're invited onto a quarterly health data policy council. No cameras, nothing on the public calendar, input officially non-binding. Months later, a federal interoperability rule is published, and you recognize your own sentence structure inside a footnote. You testify before a Senate Health Committee. Voss is in the room, seated behind the industry's lobbying delegation. A junior senator asks a scripted question about patient data ownership. Your answer isn't scripted. When I was in a trial at 20, my own symptom got logged as non-specific. I built this because nobody else would track it. The room goes quiet for 3 seconds. Nobody follows up. Your effective tax rate this year is 19%. Your lead nurse informaticist, who built half your symptom matching algorithm, pays 24% on a $76,000 salary and carries a $4,800 deductible on the health plan you provide her. The system that once billed you $1,140 for a chest pain scare now lets your tax team shelter 12 times that amount through stock donation timing alone. Not evasion. Architecture. At this altitude, the system isn't broken. It's tailored. Unfairness is just what tailoring looks like from underneath. A federal agency drafts an interoperability rule touching your core product. Your lobbyist has a draft copy before the public does. By the time smaller competitors read about it in trade press, you've already submitted changes. The 60-day comment window opens 40 days after your influence has already closed it. Level 6, $500 million. You are infrastructure. HHS stops calling to regulate and starts calling to partner. A 9-figure multi-year contract to run parts of a national health data exchange, negotiated rather than imposed. Your company employs thousands across a dozen states, including 2 swing districts where you're the largest private employer. When your team calls a senator's office, the callback comes within the hour, not from donations, but from payroll math nobody wants to explain to laid-off constituents. A congressional hearing on drug pricing transparency puts you in front of a junior representative asking whether your platform is just another middleman profiting off sick people. Your answer is ready and unhurried. Total taxes paid, jobs created, the number of adverse events flagged early because of your registry that regulators missed. No follow-up. The resulting report runs several hundred pages and recommends further study. Nothing changes. You start a foundation funding free community health clinics in the kind of neighborhoods where the original trial recruited you. The tax deduction on the donated stock saves you tens of millions. The same system that once buried your own side effect in an appendix now pays you 8 figures to fund the clinics catching what it still misses. The charity is real, the tax benefit is real. Both are true in the same sentence. Meridian's board, meanwhile, is pushing a massive new drug contract through Congress, and Trevor Voss is the name on the lobbying disclosure. Level 7, $10 billion. You are the system. When the Secretary of Health and Human Services references data infrastructure in a national address, your company is the unnamed subject. Your legal team has marked up interoperability bills before most staffers finish the first read. You don't lobby the health system anymore. The health system lobbies you. Your effective tax rate is 3.9%. A home health aide earning $52,000 pays 21% and can't afford her own employer's insurance plan. Not evasion. Architecture. Unrealized gains. Offsetting income. Structures deferred across decades longer than most careers will last. A bipartisan data privacy bill carries a narrow carve-out, language drafted by your lobbyists 4 years earlier for an entirely different bill, migrated whole and unchanged into this one. You're regulated, in the end, by a rule that contains your own handwriting. Trevor Voss requests a private meeting. No staff, no calendar entry. Meridian needs your platform's endorsement and your data infrastructure to get a $9 billion drug contract through federal procurement. He's polished, precise, and for the first time, deferential. He closes with 5 words. We can't do this without you. You reach into the drawer and set the old wellness card on the table between you. Teal logo faded, stock photo jogger nearly worn through. We care about your wellness. He doesn't recognize it. You tell him, you handed me this in a trial waiting room when I was 20, right after my symptom got logged as non-specific. His face doesn't show shame. It shows the arithmetic of a man realizing a piece of his past just became expensive. You approve the partnership, not because he asked, but because the contract funds a monitoring layer that would have caught what your own trial buried 2 decades ago. Your platform will run it. Your foundation will staff the clinics reading its results. Somewhere downtown, in a building you also own, your tax team is already calculating what the partnership is worth to shelter. A 20-year-old walks into a trial waiting room this week, 3 weeks behind on rent, signs a 14-page form nobody reads closely, and logs a symptom into an app built by someone who once sat exactly where they're sitting. The system treats both of you as patients. What that word actually costs is the only thing that changed. Every story on this channel is designed to change the way you think about money. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.